Hello and welcome to helpyourmath.com. In this video, we are going to talk about the measures of central tendency with straightforward calculations. Even though they're straightforward, we still want to have a calculator handy. I have mine. I hope you have yours too. As always, let's define what exactly is a measure of central tendency. We have three measures of central tendency when we're given a data set, because we're usually curious about how to define the middle of the data. The three ways we can define the center of the data are the mean, the median, and the mode. And we're going to talk about each one with a few examples for each one. First up, the mean. Sometimes we also call the mean the average. Sometimes it's called the statistical average. But mean and average do mean the same thing. What we're looking for is we add up all of the numbers and then we divide by the number of numbers, and that's going to tell us what the mean is. Okay, so in my first example for it's the only example for calculating mean in this video, I just looked up on StreetEasy the rents of 9 two-bedroom apartments in Tribeca, and this is the data that I came up with. So the question is, based on these 9 apartments, what is the mean price? Put this into your calculator. I do tell you that there are 9 data values, right? But we might want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, I'm still correct. I still agree with myself. So first, we're going to add up all of these values. When I add up the 9 values, I get 74,498. 74,498. And then we're going to take that giant number and we're going to divide it by 9 to get the average. When I divide by 9, I get 8,277.56. Since this is money, I will round to the nearest penny. However, if you want to round to the nearest dollar, since all of these are dollar amounts, you could also do that. Maybe I'll do that. So I would get 8,278 because the 5 in the tenths place bumps up the 7 to an 8. And does that make sense based on these numbers? Right? If you end up with a number like 45,000, I'd be a little suspicious because none of the rents are $45,000. So we just want to kind of just do a real quick check to make sure there's no major error. $8,278 does seem reasonable. So again, to find the mean, we added up all 9 values together, and then we divided that sum by 9. Number 2 is the median. So the median is like the middle when they're lined up from least to greatest, greatest to least, or least to greatest. It actually doesn't matter. We line them up, and then we just try to figure out what number or numbers are in the middle. If there are an odd number of data values, then it will be exactly that number in the middle, right? Because you can check off smallest and largest, second smallest, second largest, and keep going until you finally get to that middle number. If there are an even number of data values, it will be the average of the two that are in the middle. The second bullets I'm going to talk about in the next video, so you can just gently ignore those for right now. Only the bold parts apply to what we're doing. So our first example, we had these 9 bedrooms in Tribeca. The first thing we want to do is put them in order from least to greatest. We cannot find a median unless they're written in order. Usually it's least to greatest, but if you are feeling fancy, do greatest to least. Why not? All right, so I'm going to line these up. Let's see how I do. And based on this, we're going to cross out the extremes, the second set of extremes, the third set, the fourth set, and here we are. It looks like based on this, the median cost of an apartment in Tribeca to rent is $8,000. Oh my gosh, $8,000. How did that compare to the mean? The mean was $8,278, so pretty close together all in all. Let's look at another example. This time I have 10 values, so this one we have to do a little more math, so if you have that calculator, make sure it's working. All right, I just looked up average ticket prices for Beyonce's Renaissance tour for various cities, and this is according to SeatGeek.com, so I don't believe these are actually the prices, but that's what the website said. I also did round them to the nearest $5. Okay, so for median, again, we need to line these up. This was just the order they were given in, I think based on where the tour went. Let's put them in order from least to greatest. Okay, so I have them lined up. You'll notice I leave space, and that's because if I miss one, I can kind of squish it in, which I did. I missed the 170 when I was doing this, and I was able to squish it in still. So it's there, it's in the right spot. I didn't have to erase it and start all over. I was just able to squish. Okay, so now we're going to be left with 2 values in the middle, because if there's 10, right, there's going to be pairs. We're going to just cross those out, 3s, 4s. Oh, this is nice. So it turns out the 2 in the middle actually are the same. They're both 175. If they weren't, what we would do, and I can still show you even though it's, you know, they're going to average to 175, you would take the 2 numbers in the middle and find the average. So you'd add them up and then divide by 2, because there's only 2 numbers in the middle. This would give me 350 over 2, which would get me back to 175. But if they were different, then we would just take the average of the 2 different numbers. And that's what we would do for median. So median, make sure they're in order, either from greatest to least or least to greatest. And then you kind of check off if you can, unless the data set's huge, but that's for the next video. And then we just look for the number or numbers in the middle. And last up, we have mode. Mode, that's the data value that occurs the most frequently. What's different about mode versus mean or median is that we can have all sorts of different numbers or types of modes. A set can have just one mode, right? The one that appears more frequently than the others. And we call that unimodal. No, I'm just kidding. That's not a thing. Unfortunately, we just say it has one mode. It sounds cool though. I liked it. I'm going with unimodal. A set with 2 modes is actually called bimodal. This one's for real. I underlined it and everything because spell check does agree. 2 modes means it's bimodal. So 2 modes, that means they both repeat more frequently than any other value in the set. That would be 2 modes. If there's one that repeats 6 times and one that repeats 7 times, that's still considered just to be the one mode, that value that repeated 7 times. But if they both repeat 6 times, then we would say that the set has 2 modes or is bimodal. If there's more than 2 modes, we would call it multimodal. So 3 modes, 4 modes, 5 modes, that would be multimodal. A set where no data value repeats more than once has no mode. Actually, it's not even more than once. It doesn't repeat more than any other number in the set. So we could have a lot of different types of modes, but if everything occurs 6 times, there would be no mode. It's not that everything is a mode. There would just be no mode. So kind of a slight correction. If it repeats more than once, but it's the same as every other, it repeats as many other times as every other value in the set, then there would be no mode. So nothing stands out. Going back to our 9 apartments in Tribeca, these were in order. It might be helpful to use the median, but even looking at these, no value repeats. We get some that are pretty close, but none repeats. So we would say these 9 values have no mode, and that's okay. We don't have a mode. Nothing stands out. How about our Beyonce Renaissance Tour tickets? This one, again, if you want to go back to the median, you can go back to the median, but there is one that repeats 2 times, and that's the 175, and that's the only one. So this one has one mode, and that one mode is $175. And these were my examples of the measures of central tendency. In the next video, we'll look at examples where we actually use frequency tables to up our game, make it a little more challenging. But if this was challenging enough, great. I hope you found this informative, and thank you for stopping by.